Good afternoon, all. Welcome, all my panelists, all my senior people there. Appreciate you all joining, taking out your busy schedule, timing from the busy schedule, and joining us for this meet. Uh, uh, to start with, COVID-19 has been really a game changer in this entire human history. Our world will, that's what I heard in some of the conferences, like, the history will be like the pre-coronavirus and post-coronavirus, because everybody will think that, okay, fine, what happened before coronavirus and what has happened after coronavirus, and a lot of learning. So from a cyber security point of view, that's a lot of learning which we had, a lot of breaches post COVID or pre-COVID, before or during the COVID, there are a lot of breaches, and we had then had a new normal terminology coming in, and the fact that different parts of the world have begun seeing massive increase in cybersecurity breaches, but it's not limited to a device or a communication kind of a channel, or maybe could be a technology level issue. It's a organizational level issue. It's a organizational, or it's a company wise issue where we need to go and fix those things. And that is the reason I wanted to have, or will my frame my questions already basis those relevant topics. And as you are all aware that the cybersecurity breaches are slowly and severely pushing in direction of a new cybersecurity world. And in that context, we have also increased a lot of companies who have increased their those budgets also, and they also have worked since last 1.5 years aggressively to counter or mitigate this kind of an threat or to the issues. So going back to maybe my first question will be maybe to Ashutosh sir, like what is his view on overcoming the fears of cybersecurity? And that is the first part, the fear of the fear of security, or fear of that particular breaches is something which will be my first. And what is his view on that? And then his adoption towards clouds, and what is his view on the clouds, and whether it is an advantage to go with a solution, maybe a solution or a technology like cloud because of this current situation. So that is from Ashutosh sir, if you can give a views.
Thank you, Mr. Sunil, and all my fellow panelists. And I thank the organizers for giving this opportunity. Frankly, the fear is for the breaches in cybersecurity, not for cybersecurity. Okay, so obviously, when you are in the BFSI domain, you have a lot of information, lot of data, lot of operational issues, and then any cybersecurity breach has not only implications in terms of business, but they have implication in terms of regulatory action. They have implication in terms of customer confidentiality. They have implication in terms of your reputation. So obviously, taking all these factors into account, there is always a fear that if any cybersecurity breach happens, it has got implications from a multidimensional perspective. So that goes without saying. And this is this particular statement, this I am saying is not anything technical. This is an anecdotal statement only, and anybody who is a practitioner, who is a stakeholder, would agree to this statement. The other point I would like to say is that, interestingly, among all the panelists that I see, I am a risk manager actually, and all of you are from the IT security domain. I have the CISO who reports to me, but then I oversee the information security in a way, but I don't directly handle that. And but then as we all understand, and we have come to realize in the times that we have passed through and passing, that the information security risk, cyber security breach, etc., the risk which can emanate on account of those things have been very much highlighted during this time, when our business in many modes have become more through the online mode rather than from the physical mode. So that has been one of the things which has kind of sensitized all of us to the possible effects that a breach can have on the business implication and many other implications which I have. So leaving aside that part, the fear of cloud, basically, it comes out of a common sense perspective and also out of a technical perspective. Common sense perspective, when quite some time back, when we got to understand what does it mean to operate out of a cloud, the initial feeling which came is that, no, I don't have the control on that. So the kind of data warehouses and the kind of IT systems that we operated on, everything was under our control and everything was with us. And then we operated out of that. Okay. And from that, moving to cloud is basically a paradigm shift, where the efficiency is achieved through cloud, and the not only efficiency, but also economy and cost optimization, all those things are achieved. So I think now we have come to a stage where most of the organizations have accepted that operating in a cloud environment is the most efficient and most optimized way of doing business. I think there is a general acceptance on that. Maybe I would like to hear on what my fellow panelists would have to say to enlighten all of us on this particular aspect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Over to Subhajit, sir. Your views on on this entire the two things. The first is fear of security in this current arena, and what is you think the cloud, whether it's a new normal, and what is your strategy around that, or views on that?
So you ask a vast question and very, I think it requires a lot of time. It's not easy to answer in, I think, my target is to answer maybe in 2 to 3 minutes. It's impossible for anyone to answer. So I'd like to touch upon some of the points we may not have touched upon or something like that. But I think most of the points have been discussed over again and again and again. So on the information security, as Mr. Ashutosh Mishra said, so one of the major changes which today, if you look at the information security, it is not a 5 years back, 10 years back, information security was part of the information technology. In our company also, it was, I am a CIO. So it was 10 years back, nobody was there, right? Part of the CISO. So we recruited one person. So we have to justify why I require one full-time person. Okay, this is, I'm talking 6-7 years back. So it was part of the information technology. So now it has become part of risk management. Why the information security today is the responsibility of not the IT team or information security, which is responsibility of the board of the company. So board is responsible for information security. That is the today common knowledge and practice, and it is so board is responsible, and board delegates that responsibility to the CEO, and CEO delegates that to the CISO and other thing. But ultimately, any breach happens, responsibility is a board. And that is one major change. And second change, it has become part of the risk of the company. Again, risk in our most of the BFSI, it has started more aggressively in post 2008. If we look at, especially in India, BFSI, 2008, that global meltdown. So now it is part of risk management for right reason, because you require a huge oversight, governance, due diligence by board and the CEO and other teams. And obviously then you have to have a team which have to be segregated between IT and InfoSec responsibilities and the roles. So that is there today. And today another point is, none of the companies like us, nobody can claim that we have not been attacked. I think last few years, I think most of the companies, everybody is vulnerable to attack. So that is given. Every CISO, I think, accepts that. May not be in public forum, but privately you and me accept that today everybody will be attacked. So prevention is one of them, but it is not guaranteed. But what is guaranteed we can do as part of the NIST, we can to detect, mitigate, and respond. So that's the preparedness you require, because attack will happen, recce will happen, and penetration will happen. But whether it damages you or not, so how fast you respond, mitigate, and protect, so that's the change. So there are so many changes. The entire focus of information security has changed. Most of the companies like our company and Moni BFI's company, I have seen the people seriousness has changed. Outlook has not at that extent, but it has changed dramatically over the last few years. CISO's role has become very, very prominent, responsible, and CISOs are always feeling very accountable, responsible, and they are also feeling vulnerable because anytime anything can happen today. And there are so many changes. So I'll continue if some time comes. And on the cloud, again, Mr. Mishra was telling, so that's today this question of security is everything is, there's no physical security because even if data center, there's no physical. Today, everybody is operating from from anywhere in the world, right? So that concept of zero trust security has come into play, okay? So there is no physical boundary today. So that is a false notion that data center means everything within your control, everything is secure. I don't think so. That's the correct attitude. It was a few years back. Today, you have to have a complete control of your security apparatus, perimeter, endpoint, everything. And so whether you data center, premises or cloud, so that is immaterial today. So you have to full control visibility because complexity has increased. So for CISO team, IT team, complexity has increased. How really you monitor, measure, and have a visibility, that is most important, whether it's on-premises and cloud. So cloud gives you opportunity to have a lot of off-the-shelf tools and other capabilities, which are the benefit, which you cannot develop as a company. It takes a long time and there's no, commercially those are available. But how do you really operate, manage, and really upskill your people? So that's the key. Yeah, there are, you have to be careful on cloud because you have to be technically and legally, you have to be careful, but still, so it's a notion, it's perception. So you have to be, everything has to be visible to you. Otherwise, even if we are having our own premises, on-premise data center, nothing is visible. It's not, we cannot keep on the lock and key. So a few years back, that cages used to see data center. So that is gone. You cannot have a physical.
It's a question of mindset, actually.
The mindset, 1.5 years back, see, most of the Indians' mindset has changed with work from home. It's changed to a large extent, and it is, I think, changed for the good, right? It's not for the, it's for the environment, for the world at a large, it is yet. But a lot of people, bureaucratic mindset has not changed. Still, people feel I have to sit in front and then only get the things done. So old mindset is not changed, but it is triggering the change. Okay, Sunil, over to you.
Thanks, Suresh sir. So over to you, Satya. Like, being into risk and analytics is a very difficult job, and wanted to understand your views of how this entire arena has changed from an information to cybersecurity, and how what is your views on this entire things, and how this what is that your views, and how this will entirely will lead to the next new normal. So that is. Maybe if you can just summarize, or if you can just have a view of that.
Sure. Thanks, Sunil.
Yeah.
So let me take what Asutosh and Subhojit they have already talked. So I agree. So earlier, the cyber risk was not part of the principal risk which the global banks were tracking. So we should track market risk, credit risk, and operational risk. And nowadays, climate risk and cyber risk is also becoming part of the principal risk which the banks are tracking. Sometimes they're tracking independently the cyber risk, and in some areas it is as part of Basel regulations, it is part of operational risk also. And we have a kind of a capital impact also based upon the number of attacks or number of intrusions they're able to do. So the regulators are also recognizing the cyber risk by penalizing based on the capital charges. And regarding what Subhojit mentioned, that we have to be prepared every time. So like there was a famous quote by Assassin, and that holds in cybersecurity also. You have to be successful every time. We have to be only once. So even one breach is good enough for the to get our sensitive customer data or any other data. For that, I think there are a lot of techniques we have been doing, like the encryption is being done based on need availability. Not everyone will have the accesses to all the data, and it can be based on aggregated data. And also the models are also evolving. So banks are also working with various fintech partners, and they are also having accesses to our data. And like a corporate data, we might share with the fintech partner, so we can just, they can access our encrypted data or the key data, and they're coming up with the credit score. So that kind of thing. So these banks are moving from a standalone model to a more collaborative integrated model. So cyber risk also has to take it's not only banks we have to be protected, but also the ecosystems, the various partners we're working with. So those are also important. And regarding cloud, the adoption is becoming faster and faster. So earlier banks were mostly going for in-premise cloud solutions. But so the thing is, which are the data elements we can go outside? Can it be aggregated data? It doesn't have any sensitive data. So probably only for computation purpose, because cloud is definitely a way forward. But how should we configure it? How should we optimize the data elements, encryption, and what is our strategy? So that will define our cloud adoption. It's going very fast because that's the only way out, because both in terms of computational abilities, it's easy for us to ramp up the capacity if we want to have cloud servers, do the computations, complex computations analysis. But also there are pros and cons. There have been famous incidents like the Capital One, where there was a misconfiguration of the cloud server of the AWS, and because of which there was a breach. And at the time, there was a to and fro going between Amazon and the Capital One, I think 2-3 years back. So who is responsible for the configuration maintenance? So that is another issue which banks should take into account. So anyway, it's a way forward. We probably we might have to think about the framework where we integrate our banks and partners. And also what people mentioned about the work from a home environment. So earlier, everything was secured. So we were not, like some of the functions, like risk functions, were not even allowed to work outside the offices. But now everything is allowed, whether it's compulsion or it was no choice. So now it's being allowed. But we have to, the security framework also needs to evolve. So banks are also working on the resilience and security, because work from home environment is a different kind of environment. So whether the laptops are secured, where the Wi-Fi is secured, where the data the person is accessing, that is also secured. So that kind of things there. So softwares are evolving, but still way to go on that. So we have to make a lot of improvements are needed. I think that's it. That's the way I'll summarize some of the key points.
Yeah. Thanks, Satya. So lastly, so sorry to be at last, Suresh. So your views on, because all my co-panelists mentioned about the cloud advantages, disadvantages, the pros and cons of cybersecurity, the fears of cybersecurity, and those relevant concepts. So what's your view as a leader? What's your view on the cloud, and how simplify and how more approachable and scalable can that be system for companies like the companies like bigger companies like us? So how that can be done? So maybe your views around this kind of an adoption.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sunil, for the opportunity. And like I said, it's always best to go last, because the other speakers have made the right points and I can build on them. And there have been numerous points, fantastic ones that have been made. and that sort of gives me the basis to say to build my point of view. Of course, cloud definitely brings flexibility and convenience and agility and all the good things it brings. But it also, what it does is it increases the attack surface. Net and sum, the number of points which can be attacked. I think it was Mr. Ashutosh or maybe Subhajit who said that earlier in the data center there used to be cages and there used to be physical security and we used to have a sense of control, right? But today, you can have clouds workloads deployed across cloud data centers wherever they are, and what it leads to is the attack surface increases vastly. That is point number one. And since the data might be stored in multiple locations, like Mr. Satya mentioned, we have to account for data privacy also, right? So definitely, while cloud has its good things, it also comes with sort of greater responsibility. And I also picked up a few points from the various from what the various speakers said. Like Mr. Ashutosh mentioned that data breaches have multi-dimensional impact, right? I wanted to sort of pose this question to the rest of the panel also. Yes, data breaches have multi-dimensional impact. Is the response of the organization in planning and preventing data breaches multidimensional, right? My submission at this point of time, or my reading at this point of time, it is not. And I also pick up on Mr. Subhajit's point. He said, today the risk is board of directors responsibility, and risk is of various kinds. And Mr. Satya also mentioned about different kinds of risk and how IT risk and cybersecurity risk is getting added to that. And Mr. Subhajit mentioned that board of directors have delegated to CEO, and CEO in turn delegates to the IT and InfoSec, right? So there is this sort of division of responsibilities, so to speak, between the IT team, which is sort of the infrastructure side, and the information security team, who is responsible for the security, right? But hackers are not thinking that way. They are thinking in have one view. How do I get to the data, right? How do I get to the confidential data, or how do I sort of tamper with the integrity of data, or in today's case, how do I make it unavailable for the business, like in a ransomware attack, right? So that is what the hacker is thinking, and hacker is thinking in a very, very holistic fashion, without doubt. So one of the things is, how do organizations have a very holistic approach? And Satya mentioned, Mr. Satya mentioned in his small talk about, he mentioned encryption of data, where relevant, where it is possible and where it is required. It's encryption is one of the tools that can help organizations protect the data in terms of data security. And he also mentioned how today financial institutions have to share data outside of their organization, because that's the nature of the business. It's an ecosystem. Fintechs are taking the data from the bank and using that to give a credit score and take a credit decision, etc. And then when you're sharing this data outside of your organization, how do you protect the data? How do you maintain the privacy, right? So let's say for 6 months or 12 months, you had a relationship with a fintech, but after that, that relationship has been terminated. So what happened to the data that was shared previously? Can it be misused in any way? What are you leaving behind, right? So policy-based sharing of data, which is encrypted within the organization, right? But when it's shared outside the organization, it has to be obviously decrypted, right? And after it is decrypted and shared and used by the partner organization, and when it's not required by the partner organization anymore, what happens, right? How do you manage this data sharing or data privacy issues? So that is another very interesting topic, and I think it is something that is going to come into the CISOs or the risk managers radar very soon, data privacy. And lastly, Mr. Satya also mentioned one very interesting point about this misconfigure. I mean, the issues between Capital One and AWS, right? And that takes me to this nice thing called Hanlon's razor, which basically is a sort of a Peter's principle kind of thing, which basically said never attribute malice which can be sufficiently explained by stupidity, right? So it is about managing the entire process and making it, foolproof, right? And so that the capital one kind of errors do not recur, and that does not lead to any kind of data breach which the hacker can sort of exploit, right? So net and sum, my submission is the cloud is a fantastic thing. It gives a lot of flexibility, and today the way forward is hybrid cloud, where some part of the workloads will remain on-prem, rest of it will move into a public cloud. That's what a hybrid cloud is all about. And one has to manage, one has to have a zero trust model of managing data, identities, network, everything, right? The entire infrastructure, right, across hybrid clouds. That would be what I'd say we should do. I mean, that would be the way forward, I guess.
I just the small point. I just wanted to make a very small point actually. I mean, happy that all of us kind of agreed that the breaches could have multi-dimensional impact. And then I agree that the response of the organizations may not be happening in the way it has to happen. So, but in this, I would like to make a point. From a silo-based risk management, we have come to what is called enterprise-wide risk management. So the difference is that instead of looking at risk from a silo, we look at risk from an enterprise perspective. Similarly, when we are looking at a cybersecurity risk, etc., we also have to look at it from an enterprise-wide perspective. Probably that would provide us the solution. Yes. I thought I will make this point. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so correct, sir. I wanted to touch upon that similar but you mentioned that before that we correct. So it's an enterprise-wide risk is something which is it's a new thing, and it's a new concept, and it's a new thinking direction which is the board is thinking of. And cybersecurity is definitely has taken a priority as a part of the enterprise risk. And so considering that, I wanted to understand maybe your views on that was an old age when we used to let the incident happen and then we work on the particular incident, and then that's kind of a damage control kind of a thing which we used to do it before COVID, and that was a typical strategy which used to be happen. And now the things has changed. Now it's like it's a continuous monitoring, continuous as mentioned by my fellow panelists, like it has to be continuous monitoring. It has the strategy has to be very adaptive in nature. We cannot just stick to one strategy and you say, okay, fine, this will work for me. So since we have Subhajit sir, sir, what do you understand from your end? What is your what should be the kind of a strategy which should be adopted across companies? Where that should be in a kind of an adaptive nature, and that should continuously move, and whatever the changes which comes as part of the new normal, that has been automatically inspected, and that has been that relevant controls are mitigated and those threats are mitigated. So your views on that, sir?
So you would want me to respond, or
Ashutosh sir, if you can respond, and then we'll go back to sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a very interesting question, and I would like to give a slightly holistic helicopter view among all these technical specialists. Now, in the risk management, we always talk about the three-pillar approach. Okay, the first level of risk management is always done by the business. The second risk management level of risk management is done by the risk management department, and third would be the assurance function, where the audit function or the inspection function gives the assurance to the management that things are happening the way it is intended to be. Now, what has happened is that now this segregation of various lines of handling a risk has kind of got blurred. And what has happened is that the risk management works in coordination and alongside the business itself. So we take that to the information security or the cyber security part also. So then instead of the risk management acting in a silo kind of a thing, where it either acts as a different domain or as a different specialist domain, it works in coordination with the business functions alongside doing business. So that is the ideal way of doing this. The difference in this approach is that the entire approach becomes proactive instead of reactive. I work alongside business and I consult with the business consults me, and whatever modifications or new improvements are required to protect myself, I do that alongside doing business. That is the new way of doing things, wherein both the pillars, the pillar of doing taking risk management while doing business, and risk management as a separate domain where it is providing frameworks and the guidelines as to how to handle risk management, both coalesce together at the time of doing business. So basically, that is the holistic approach which has happened in risk management, and I'm sure that is the way forward in managing the IT risk or the cybersecurity risk. Now, that would be the approach, and we can expand that approach into technical part. So that is the overall thing I would like to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, sir. Yes, over to you, sir. Sir.
Yeah, Sunil, one point I'm just reminding that today's this cyber word has become just a still, it is a old, very, very old, I don't know, almost. So US versus Vietnam, okay, so that guerrilla warfare. So it is the most, maybe similar analogy I would like to happen. So hackers and you today you have, most of the companies, we have invested huge amount of money, right, in terms of technology, processes, people, and it's, and information security today, everybody is like hot potato, right? Everybody look at in the terms of companies, people. But again, end of the day, it's like the similar situation with, between USA and Vietnam. In spite of so much might, everything, but still they could not. So it is similar situation. So today we have all the things in place and evolving, and but still, I think there are something, as Satya said, that you have to be successful every time, right? To defend and to penetrate, you have to succeed only once. So that's the core thought today between hackers and defenders. So I think defense you cannot sustain now, according to me, with the defense strategy. Mr. Ashutosh said defense. So now you have to go to offense also, I think. Like I think Satya can say that honeypot, right? So that kind of offense or other offense, because you cannot keep on defending. So defending is, penetration is going to happen. Then you have to rest upon respond, mitigation, and other things. So you have to go in the offense. Now so many layers of structure have come up. The governance structure, as I told, from the board, managing director, information security committee, due diligence overseeing, audit. So those structures have come. There are a huge number of people. SOC has become very, very hard of most of the companies, like your company, our company. SOC has become very hard, right? Today, again, we are not able to set up SOC. We are using managed SOC services. So that is one of the, where we have to have a daily or every second, every minute monitoring SOC service, and you have to create new use cases, playbooks every other day, as Satya and others always saying. Suresh also said that you have to very continuous monitoring. So it's not question of a reactive nature. So now you have to be proactive. So SOC, in that context, SOC has become very, very critical. BAPT also has become very critical. That cyber security maturity assessment has become critical. But these are all, okay, some kind of reactive. So you have to be more proactive. So in spite of that, still there are a lot of loopholes today in a big structure, because as Suresh said, that our mitigation and responding is also not very mature today. Because today most of us think we won't be attacked. So we are mostly thinking that. But again, see, most of the now we have to accept that you will be attacked. How good you are in defending or mitigating and damaging your risk to the minimum. And the second part, which you also talked about future, is the data. So data protection, data privacy, which today in India is very, very nascent stage. And we don't have that kind of, most of us were not born with that culture, right? Data security, data privacy. But today, so that will come into play with the outsourcer. How do you implement DRM and other applications, right? So, which obviously will be tomorrow's world. It is becoming more and more critical for your business. Business may survive, may not survive because of your data breach and data loss.
Thank you, sir. So yeah, I agree with you. So coming back to Satya's, all of my panelists talk about a lot of risk, a lot of things like from a third-party data leakage point of view, from a third-party risk which they are identified. We have the strategy which is changing from an old strategy to new strategy. So what is your view how the things will change and to be more adaptive and to be more consistent? So that is I wanted to understand your views on that. You're on mute.
I will try to advance what Ashutosh and Shubhojit they already mentioned. That is, we have to be offensive on this. Like, how can we be offensive or proactive? So come with scenarios or playbooks. So different playbooks for the security breaches. So the breaches or the attacks cannot happen only from outside. It can happen from our partners, from our vendors. It can happen from our employees. It can, like the Snowden. Snowden was just one of the contractor. He was able to get 2 or 3 all the information. And the Bangladesh Central Bank attack. So that happened on a weekend. So that can happen all the time. And the Goldman Sachs insider attack, I think that happened last year, where it was detected well in time, but I think it happened in Bangalore, where the settlements, there was a wire transfer from here to Hong Kong accounts. So the playbooks and the scenarios, we can, I think the risk management, like what Ashutosh sir mentioned, so that we can prepare the different playbooks and prepare for the scenarios. So it can be through the supply chain also. So there was a small chip which was supplied, I don't remember whether it's supplied from China or Russia in supply chain, that itself had surveillance abilities. So that kind of anything can happen. So those 4 to 5, but we cannot handle all scenarios, but we should be prepared for key scenarios. Suppose we have a branch outside in some of the countries where the data protection is less and we are a global bank. So what will happen if they have access to the data? So what kind of data they should have access? We should be also prepared. It can be breached. In the playbooks, we can play out the various scenarios and then prepare accordingly. So so that's the way probably we can be offensive on the playbooks, offensive on the data strategy. So those are the two probably I can think of now.
Thanks, Satya. So over to you, Suresh sir. What is that? So we did. So all our co-panelists talk about a lot of relevant topics on the data security, on the security architecture. As IBM, what could be a best approach or could be a best framework for the companies to adopt? That is first thing. And your views on how this can be, how can that be changing, and how can that help the companies to make it more secure? The one which I talk about, Satya. So there are a lot of playbooks and those relevant integrations. But again, as an integrations can fail at many times. So how as a IBM or as a solution provider or companies like IBM, how can that be mitigated and those risks can be taken up?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. Yeah, this is IBM's point of view, and definitely my own reading after interacting with a lot of information security professionals and IT infrastructure professionals is, and like Mr. Ashutosh said and other panelists also said, is we have to be defensive and also play the offense game, right? We have to do both. And to my mind, what I would think is one area where there can be significant improvement right now to improve our security posture or cyber security posture is to invest upon encryption, because one can play the offense game only when your defense is strong, right? Encryption of data at rest, data in motion, data in use, use of signed images for application and operating system. These are fundamental defensive moves, right? It is like building a thicker castle wall or building a moat around your wall, if you want to take a 12th century example analogy sort of thing, right? So these are basic things, but which I think are being overlooked today. What is being looked at is outside in approach, right? Which is not the way it works. And then Mr. Satya brought up this very valid point. insider threats are what are critical, right? It is not just outsider threats. Brute force attack is I don't think it's practically possible anymore nowadays. Insider threats are what is critical, and that's where Mr. Ashutosh's comment, where risk is first managed by the business, then it's managed by the risk management department, and then it is managed by the audit, right? So if I draw up, if I take that statement and sort of apply to what I'm thinking, right? Of course, business will manage the risk from a business perspective, right? But the information security management will the information security team will manage the risk for the IT infrastructure, right? And here is where I think there should be an agile methodology adopted, if I may use the word in the context of the information security team and the IT team working together, right? So the IT team plays the defensive role, the information security team plays the offensive role. I mean, again, I'm now lapsing into a football analogy, right? So you have defenders and you've got the forwards who will go into the other half, right? But you've got the defenders to stay here. So I think the IT infra team and the security team are two sides of the same coin. I mean, the same solution, right? And they have to work hand in hand to ensure that the hacker doesn't get a way in. And I would think that one place where the entire security posture can improve would be to encrypt data in all its three states, in use, in transit, in use, and at rest.
Okay. Thanks, Suresh sir. So, Subhajit sir, there is a question from the audience. I'll just read out that question.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. So basically, the question is talking about the regulators, what is happening on the regulatory side, right?
Yeah. Correct.
With respect to, especially, I think, on the cloud.
Correct. So it is more specific to the cloud, the journey to the cloud, and its challenges to as a InfoSec. So your views on that?
So again, I would say again, like everybody, regulator is also evolving, right, over time, and they are also maturing. Like also there are two things. One is the mindset. Mindset also is changing with time. So some wrong conception, misconception also being cleared. Because today, if you are really to have a digital economy and other digital growth, you have to open up the economy like today is going, right? So you cannot go back to the old economy. You have to go to the digital economy. For that, you have to collaborate, right, with the fintechs. You have to open up. You have to allow people. So India's biggest success story has been payment side, right? One of the, I think, one of the largest success story in the entire world on the payment side. So, but yeah, so now everything is a double-edged sword, right? Everything you are creating convenience, opportunity, but at the same time, you are always at the risk of various types of risk. So it is always double-edged sword. It is always now, I don't know, again, that cat and mouse game, right? For information security and hackers, everything. So regulators also evolving, they are being matured, and earlier regulations used to be very generic, very vague, like 10 years back, which were open to interpretation. So today those are, if you talk about in the financial sector, like RBI is a predominant regulator for the banks, and SEBI for the other, like mutual fund, other non-banking entities. So they are also maturing, they understand. So one of the biggest debate is going on that if you see MasterCard, other thing, that data localization, right? So that's that debate. But so that debate has technology, InfoSec, maybe some geopolitical other connotations also. So yeah, regulators are maturing and they are giving very clear directive. And so as I said, everybody is moving to cloud, especially BFSI, but according to me, like we are moving, everybody should move in a very planned manner with a strategy, clear strategy. It should not be just a compulsion or hype that you need to go because other guys going. So there are so many options today. You can on-premise, hybrid, multi-cloud, okay, and private cloud, public cloud. So all options are today there, right? And also it is cost optimization in many cases. So you have to have a good cloud strategy also in place, which will include also InfoSec strategy or framework. Like today as a company, we started this journey. If you last year to build a strategy, a roadmap for the cloud migration. So there you have to look through everything, right? Assessment and your strategy, your infosec security posture, security framework. So you have to be very careful, as Sapta said, roles and responsibility between the service provider, customer, cloud service provider, those are also is maturing. Like he said, tussle between Capital One and AWS. So those are maturing also. So today, biggest challenge is the clear role and responsibility between the CSP and the client, right? What is my responsibility in terms of security? What is CSP's responsibility? So that has to be very clear.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to waste time because we are overdue by 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. So thank you all my co-panelists, and thanks everyone for joining and sharing your perspectives. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was also personally enlightening to get to know and understand this thing. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Sunil. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
What
you.
do you, Nikita?
Sure.
Mr. Sunil, very rarely does it happen that the panelists say that it was personally very enlightening to be a part of the session. What a fantastic session that was. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. And I would request our amazing leaders to clap for themselves along with me. Fantastic session. Fantastic session. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much.